All right, so I get a lot of really awesome comments, so thanks so much for all that. And a few of them have been on this last riff that I kind of played and how to play it. So I'm going to do it a little bit slower, and I'll try to go like from the side so you can see the fingerings a little bit better. And then I'll kind of, I guess, interject and talk about how I'm kind of jazzing it up a little bit. So I'm going to play this thing way slower, and then I guess at the end I can play it at the normal speed, which, believe it or not, was 190 beats per minute, which I was surprised at how fast that was when I played. I'm like, wow, that's actually moving right along. But here, check it out and see what you think, and hopefully this will help you play this one and learn these little riffs, because this is really fun to practice and play and get really good at. And I don't know, I just come up with these fun little ditties. Okay, here we go. All right, let's break that down. So it's just basically this riff, and then I changed the rhythmic approach to it just to give it some spice rather than playing the same thing over and over. So if you notice, I'm doing that technique I mentioned, this one. Instead of it's pretty subtle though, right? Because I'm letting them go just a little bit. And you'll find, I think, at least the way I try to play jazz, is a lot of the stuff is real subtle like that, but it eventually, ultimately makes a pretty big impact on the overall performance. So the more subtle, cool things you can do in there to taste, and I say that because like sometimes you can overdo it and it sounds too repetitive. So if you bend every note, it's probably too much. But if you do these little glissandos and fun little finger techniques on a lot of these different notes, it makes it sound just a little bit more interesting to the ear, I think, right? And again, I'm playing by myself, so if you're on an ensemble, some of this stuff may or may not translate as well, and it actually may be a little too messy. So you're going to have to remember to think about that stuff when you come up with lines on your own. And then if you go back and if you're in a band or something like that and you're going to record something or play it live, it may actually not work with like 4 or 5 horn players doing it all at the same time, because everybody's going to kind of do it their own way, and it might get messy and not sound so clean. So keep that in mind. A lot of the stuff I'm doing is from the soloist approach, right? Because that's what I am. So anyway, let's move on to the next section of this. And it's really the same thing, although it was actually kind of hard to learn this. It's so funny to say that, because you're like, Garrett, what do you mean you're learning it? You created it. Yes, but I created the first part, and then I'm like, well, what is this going to sound like, listening to something like how Miles Davis would approach something where he does a repetitive part and then moves it up like a half step to do it again. Yeah, well, unfortunately, you don't have the same muscle memory in your fingerings. So this one I had to kind of learn, and it took me a while. I mean, I've played this thing thousands of times, I'm sure, to get it to sound really fluid. And I guarantee I'm going to mess it up right now, because as I slow this down, the muscle memory goes away. So, but anyway, here's the second part from a fingerings position. Get that? So it's just starting on A flat instead of G. And then we go back to the original, right? And then the little solo-y part is this. So that's a little bit more technically challenging, and it probably sounds like it's way off timing, but it actually isn't. It's just kind of a weird place to start. And for me, I do a lot of my writing and my riff, at least these riffs, I just start playing something, right? So I'm not using a metronome, and I know a lot of places and people will tell you don't do that, but I don't want to sound arrogant, but I've been doing this a while, and I have not just trumpet, but just music in general. I play guitar, bass guitar, piano, sing, I can even dance. But I've been doing this a while. I have a pretty good sense of rhythm. So what I'm able to do, and if you're not able to do this, it's totally fine. This is not really that easy to do, I'm finding, but I'm able to do something weird like that and play just whatever, and then fit it into a time signature later. That may or may not be an ideal way for everyone to do things, but for me, I like the freedom of just coming up with a riff that feels right to me, and then I'll figure out where it fits into a rhythmic constraint later, and that's kind of what I do. So I apologize, I didn't do this with a metronome, and that may or may not be helpful for you, because if you learn this and then try to play it to a metronome, it might really throw you off. It's like listening to one of those techno tunes where the bass is coming in at the beginning, but it's all on the offbeat, and then all of a sudden the one hits, and you're like, whoa, what happened to the rhythm of this? It's all different now. This riff is kind of like that, where it's a little bit off at the beginning, and then it kind of comes together, especially at that end solo-y piece, because you have to hold the last note a beat longer than you think, because for you to land on the one, it doesn't finish on the four, right? So it's kind of weird in that regard. But I just wanted to throw that out there, because I don't want to mislead people to think, oh, I'm trying to play this, Garrett, and none of this lines up with anything. Yeah, it kind of was written that way on purpose. So I guess that's another way to take something really simple like that and make it way more difficult to play, because none of that's on beat, right? It's just all weird, and you can't really hear it, but the swing aspect of that makes those things all like dotted notes, if you know what I'm talking about. It's all like da, 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 da. It's all kind of on the up or the and of a beat in a lot of let me see if I can explain that a little bit better. Like those pauses and the way that's, it's all on the up. So it's just a little bit harder to follow, I guess. But the idea behind it is it comes out of true feel, because I wrote that or started playing that just from playing. There wasn't like intention behind it, and there wasn't a beat driving me there. It was just, that's what I played, and that's what I felt. And then trying to turn that back into something that works within a time signature constraint was actually pretty fun for me. I don't know what I'm going to do with that, if anything. I mean, a lot of these riffs I come up with are just fun to play. They don't really fit into lo-fi or the jazz hop type stuff that I do. And I don't do like big band kind of tunes. I could hear a riff like that actually with a kind of a big band backdrop. Would be really cool to hear a whole bunch of horns and saxes and stuff playing that. But yeah, that's not what I do. Anyway, I hope some of that helped. I hope my ability to slow some of that stuff down for you a little bit was in some way useful. And good luck on your journey. I guess as a bonus, I should play that stuff. Well, just check this out, right? Here's that solo-ish part at the end. Can you see my fingers? I'm trying to get it so you can see my hands. See how it just changes if you just change the way you tongue that up that line? It just changes it completely. But I'm playing it slow, right? So because I guess as you speed it up, it gets harder to find where the timing is. Here it goes again, right? That's actually the line, but with some of the flair in there, like I've been talking about. And then let's just put it all together. we'll just play the whole thing now just so you can get a feel for the tempo and everything else, right?